Welcome to September 17th. September is, as you probably know if you've made it this far, National Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. My name is Tony. Every day this month I am walking 3/4 of a mile and sharing it with you guys in memory of my son Sam, who passed away after a 4-year fight with neuroblastoma back on January 23rd, 2020. We're trying to raise a little bit of awareness for what's going on with these kids by sharing some of the stories from Sam's life. Also we're trying to raise funds for some organizations, specifically Alex's Lemonade Stand is a great organization that does a lot of charitable work. And we're also going to be joined today by Cheryl Rounds. We actually got it to work today.
Wow! Amazing.
How's your day going?
It's going all right. Yeah, I almost chickened out because it's been a little bit of a rough day, but I thought if Tony can do it, I can do it.
So I like this though. You started with it's going all right. Why don't you, if you're comfortable, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing today?
Yeah, so Annika had chemotherapy about 2 weeks ago. And so we knew this was coming, but she does have 1.5 inches of hair. And she has lost her hair many, many times, but every time is really hard. So the first sign of losing your hair is that sensitivity. And she'll say, my head hurts. And me and she look at each other and go, okay, here it comes.
Yep.
And last night started falling out in clumps. And so she went to go lay down to bed and tried to sleep for a couple of hours and couldn't. It just was hurting so badly. So at 1 o'clock, Annika and I were in the bathroom bathing. And it never gets easier. I don't know. Is it just as hard for boys? It's so hard when girls lose their hair.
I think I was just thinking that's, I mean, it's got to be a little bit easier. I know Sam, especially the second time around. The first time he was too young, right? Sam lost his hair twice all the way down.
Yeah.
And the first time he was 3, he was more scared of the clippers than anything else. And once I let him do mine, he didn't care anymore. He was like, "Oh, that's awesome! I got to shave Dad's head. Okay, I'll go now."
Yeah.
The second time, he was a little bit more sensitive about it, and he didn't want to lose his hair again, which we couldn't stop that. And also, I think that the first time he didn't really complain about pain. The second time he did.
Yeah.
When he lost it, and I want to say it's probably, I think you guys are doing irinotecan and temozolomide, right?
Temodar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's what he had that second time when he lost it again, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But no, I was just thinking it's got to be. I don't know if it should be, but it's got to be harder for a little girl to lose her hair. A little boy, I mean, they become the bald little cancer poster child, right? Regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just instantly makes them look sick,
Yeah.
Like to the parent and also to everyone in the whole world. It's like a billboard. And, I think going through this cancer journey, Annika, more than anything, just wants to be like every other kid. And that's the thing that she always is saying is, why can't I just be like every other kid? I just want to be like every other kid. And that's an immediate separation of her from her peers, is that she looks so different.
Yeah, you can't pretend that it's normal right now.
No.
When you don't have hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
Especially when it falls out in the patches and it just, Like, it's not like it falls out beautifully all together. It
No.
looks a little wonky for a little bit, which doesn't help. But we did just get back, and I sent you a picture that you saw. But
I love it.
we got her a wig today, and she has had hair on and off for 8 years. But today I was like, I'm getting her a wig. We're doing it today. And
she looked beautiful. She looked like a princess.
it was like the moment they put that wig on, she was like flipping her hair, and she just felt normal, and it was so worth it. I loved it.
That's, you know, that I think that's why I value some of the organizations that support the kids by providing opportunities for normalcy a lot.
Yeah.
Like I talked a little bit about Camp I Hope yesterday, which is a big one that gives, you know, cancer kids here a chance to have a summer camp experience where no one's looking at them and pointing at them because they don't have any hair.
Yep.
There's another organization that we did some things with, Hope Kids, which is a national organization with chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they get events to sporting tickets to sporting events and things like that.
Yeah.
And just give the kids a chance to do normal stuff that they wouldn't get a chance to do because they spend so much time in hospital or having to stay away from, you know, everybody because they're neutropenic or, you know, especially right now. I mean, I got to imagine this has been, I don't know, is it just another drop in the bucket for you guys, all the COVID stuff going on, or does it make it a lot harder?
I think my anxiety has peaked a little bit more with it, but also it's been interesting to hear other people's reaction to like, whoa, this is what you've been doing for 8 years? Like that you guys have been wearing masks and washing your hands and social distancing, because like social distancing is not new to my family. Unfortunately, we've waved at grandparents through windows for Christmas, and just because it was a choice between, we just had chemotherapy, we know she doesn't have an immune system, and could our sweet grandma or grandpa bring over a cold and we end up in the hospital for a month? And it just, as a parent, you have to make those really hard decisions to sometimes socially distance, but it's not easy. Yeah, so I've had a lot of,
well, and they hate it. They want to be in school, you know.
Yeah.
It's always, even my daughter, she doesn't complain as much about having to be in school because I think she saw Sam and how much he missed it and not being around. I think a lot of kids are experiencing that right now, where, you know, they're actually feeling what it's like to not have that, and that it was, you know, a privilege in some ways to be able to go and hang out with their friends.
Yeah, like that isolation, right? Yeah. And I think that, like, Annika has a lot of friends that will FaceTime with her, and I think, you know, when you talk about ways that people can support the kiddo through this, if it's financially, it can be emotionally, like letter or a Facebook call, or you know, deck or with hearts, or just like says, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
People see what you're going through, and you're not alone in this. Yeah.
No, I think, you know, that always made Sam's day, and I'm sure Annika is the same way. Anytime we could get friends, you know, it's cool for family and grandparents to FaceTime you, but when it's like your friends who don't normally FaceTime you, I think that was always, you know, great for him, whether he was in hospital or, you know, we had a couple times where, you know, he was giving friends tours of the hospital room and like what things do, kind of similar to the video you did the other day, but I'm like, he's walking around and I'm pushing the pole behind him because he's all hooked up. But yeah, he would, you know, he'd talk with the neighbor kids and they would listen to music over the thing together. And
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so great. It helps.
I was trying to, you guys, how old is Annika now? It's okay, breaking up on me a little bit. How old is Annika now?
It broke up a little. old she is. So she's right now.
I think we lost her age. One more try.
8.5.
8.5. And
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken, this journey started for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was diagnosed at 10 years old. I started with symptoms. It was about 10 weeks. Yeah, it was quite the surprise. I knew that our local hospital had a cancer unit for kids, but it never really crossed my mind that it actually happens. I know that's so weird.
Right.
Like, and you and I have talked about this where it still doesn't seem like your story because it seems too bad to be true, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm pinching myself and I'm like, is this real life? Like, this is nuts. How is this possible? Yeah.
It's, you know, you and I share a friend from the Ronald McDonald House today who had to move her little girl into hospice care. And, you know, she was kind of sharing some of those feelings on Facebook. And, you know, I wanted so badly to be able to, like, say anything, not to make it better, because I know that's not even in the realm of possibility, but just, you know, usually when I've been through something, I can give you advice on how to cope and how to deal and how to make it through. And I got nothing for this. Yeah. I got nothing other than it's okay to not be okay for a while. Was all I could tell her. And I felt so stupid and helpless trying to share that, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, how ridiculous is it to say something like, you know, hey, be strong, or, you know, keep your chin up, or, I mean, what do you tell someone?
I don't know. Yeah, and you hear people say that, like, I don't know what to say in these situations. We've been through it and we still don't know what to say.
Yeah. It's hard. This has been, you know, I was thinking about Annika the other day and just how, like, for Sam, it was a bummer for us because, like, all of his really formative years from age 3 on, he dealt with this.
Yeah.
And I mean, Annika, 10 weeks to 8.5. This has been her entire life. She doesn't know any life other than this one.
Yeah.
And I just, that's why I'm out here walking 3/4 of a mile every day. That's it right there.
Yeah.
No kid should have to have this be their entire life.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, even when we get there and we beat it, the fight doesn't end.
Yeah.
For Annika, you know, she gets past the neuroblastoma and she still has to deal down the road with the other stuff.
Yeah.
For, you know, I can feel the eyes of some of the people who are watching or gonna watch this, who are like, you know, Tony, don't be too negative. But, you know, Cheryl knows all these things. We talk about these things. You know, It's not. I've tried on this video to kind of walk that line. I try not to hide stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But also not to scare people away.
Yeah. No,
it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, well, the conversations with the doctors that you have, sometimes you do just want to, like, no, like, but you can't because it's your baby.
Yeah.
And you have to know what you're getting them into, and they're relying on you to make these decisions for them. And so you have to brave those conversations, the ones that you don't want to have. But Tony, I think you and I talked about this. One thing that you said in one of your past videos was that you're doing this walk, obviously, not for Sam. And the same reason that I try to raise as much awareness as I can is not actually for Annika, because none of the studies that are going to be funded by the amazing amounts of money that Sam's story has brought and you guys have produced from all of this, but none of it will help Annika or probably any of the kids that we know.
Yeah.
So we have that passion and that drive, like you said, just it's not for us, it's for the future kids and the families that don't even realize that childhood cancer could actually strike their families. It's really for them, because studies take so long to develop and get approved, and unfortunately, so it's not for any of our kids. It's for other people's grandchildren and kids in the future that it would help.
Yeah, it's the next generation. I saw an interesting post the other day that Maud pointed out to me, and I'll try to remember to share it to the Super Sam group. And I wish I could remember which pediatric cancer organization put this up there, but I'll try to paraphrase. Basically, it said, imagine that you knew ahead of time that you were going to have this beautiful child, and you were going to get to spend 6 to 12 beautiful months with that child where everything was perfect. But then at the end of 6 to 12 months, they were going to be diagnosed with a disease that has a 50% survival rate.
Yeah.
That has received historically 4% of national funding.
Yeah.
For that type of disease goes to pediatric.
Yeah.
And their bottom line was, if you knew that, when would you start your fight? Would you start it when the cancer came?
Yeah.
No. And that's kind of what I think we're asking some of these people to do.
Yeah.
Is help us fight, because we're fighting on down the line.
Yeah. Yep.
So
there's a study that we've looked into for Annika, and it's called the Aurora Kinase study, and the phase 1 had like a 53% success rate, and I was like, oh my gosh, and that's a
big number.
It's a big number. It sounds horrible, right? But in our world, 53% is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And the reason that study was dropped is because the only cancer that it was effective for was neuroblastoma, which is not, because it was only neuroblastoma, it's not going to make that company any money. So they tested it on other cancers, it wasn't effective, so they dropped it. And that's why, like the money that can be raised could be used to actually fight these drugs that aren't profitable, or to produce these drugs that aren't profitable, but could save lives. Yeah. Yep.
I don't, I'm sure that when you heard that news or you saw it, you felt, I'm angry. That makes me really angry.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It feels, it is panic inducing, really, because Jeff, his first thought was like, what do we have to sell? What do we, what do we need to do to raise that? But you can't do it alone.
I don't think people quite understand the amounts of money that you talk about when it comes to fighting this stuff. And I don't mean funding new research. Like, funding new research is beyond the realm of even my imagination. It's this like vague thought out there in my mind that I know needs a ton of money.
Yeah.
A step down from that is like the individual families' fights. And I talked to a family when we were at the Ronald McDonald House, and I think this is the case for a lot of international families who go through a study that I think that Sam and Annika shared was, or maybe not, but they didn't have U.S. health insurance, so they literally had to come up with, out of pocket, the money to come over there and do this at the hospital. And I honestly can't remember whether it was $170,000 or $270,000.
Yeah.
Like, where do you come up with that?
Yeah.
Without the help of, I don't know, call it crowdfunding, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of this is about, is finding things that work, but then also making the things that work, or at least the best that we have, more available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Available all over.
Yeah.
You know, if my research is right, there's one hospital in the world with survivors of central nervous system neuroblastoma, which is how Sam passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in New York City. Like,
yeah.
And they're still trialing what they're doing to see if they can bring that number up and then share it. But
yeah.
To think in today's world that there's only one place to go for some, it blows my mind. I'm coming up to the end of this, but real quick, I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about trials and stuff, how many different hospitals do you think Annika's been through?
I lost you there for just a second.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm coming up on the end of this, but I was thinking earlier, I wanted to ask one more question.
Yeah.
How many hospitals do you think that Annika's been through in her life?
3, 4, 5, 6 that I could think of just right off the top of my head.
Yeah, and this is not. Oh, I'm going over to this hospital ER because it's a little closer. This is like inpatient, long duration stays, like courses of treatment.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Cheryl, thank you for walking with me and talking. I really appreciate it. I know you and I talked a little bit about the Beads of Courage stuff, and I think maybe maybe I'll make you come do this again, and we'll share those. I got to dig out Sam's, because I think they're a very powerful physical representation of just a little bit of what these kids are going through.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for that, and everybody else, thank you for joining us and walking with us. I hope you enjoyed this more than me just rambling and trying to think of intelligent things to say.
I want to thank all of my friends that donated for my birthday. Like, Jeff did that without me knowing, and I wouldn't have had the guts to do it. But like Annika's Army, thank you so much we didn't have the energy to fundraise, and so I'm grateful to Tony's family that they were able to pull this together, and thank you for supporting them. They're so important to me. So thank you, Annika's Army. I love you guys.
You guys have just an amazing support group. You know, it's great. There's nothing I need to say. You know it, and I know it, and we love you guys. We'll talk to you real soon. Everybody, hey, thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, you guys.